Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. For Nier Reincarnation, let's continue with the translation of the Chronology in the back of the Materials book. This is going to be a fun one. We'll start with a bit of Nier Reincarnation, get into Nier Replicant, and then the last half will be all Nier Reincarnation. There is one thing I wanted to correct from the previous video, the third installment. I explained that with the Chronology, the Nier Reincarnation specific entries are colored in red, and then the kind of the general Nier entries are colored in green. That is still correct, but in the video at one point I said that the Hina and Yuzuki entries were in red. That is not true. They are in green, actually. I misspoke in that video. I put a pinned comment in there. But it's interesting to look at, which reincarnation characters get the green treatment and which get the red. But spoiler alert, the green entries, or the entries that will be considered sort of like prime timeline. That's the wording that somebody used, so I'll borrow that. It's Hina Yuzuki, it's 10H, and Noelle, which we will see, I believe, in the next video. So very interesting to note the kind of the differences there. Also interesting to note that Fio and Lavania are in red, so they are more reincarnation-based characters. Alright, but let's get into the timeline. 2028, June. A destroyer of the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force is attacked and sunk by Daegyeon. June 19th. A destroyer in the middle of a patrol is attacked and sunk by a marine-type Daegyeon. After 4 days of rescue efforts on the ocean floor, the female leader of a military unit on board is brought up. Numerous Daegyeon corpses are found in the wreck, and the attack was deemed large-scale, but there were few human casualties. This is Hina from the end of her Dark Memory story, and this is badass. We saw at the end of that story that the ship was going down, and we're all like, oh, I guess that's the end of Hina. But apparently it's not. It's so cool to think of like her high school version, and her attack animations, which are very clumsy, and then seeing the Crusaders version, the Dark Memory version, polished. And here we're seeing her being a good military leader. And also, presumably, getting all of her other, cohorts out of the sunken ship before herself. 4 days underwater, that's crazy. But yeah, Hina does not die at the end of her Dark Memory story, so we'll see her again. Getting back to the timeline, 2028, September. A Red Eye invades a Hamlin organization base. September 18th, a Hamlin base in the Middle East is suddenly overrun by Daegyeon and falls. From the attack, surveillance recorded images of a Red Eye, but due to damaged equipment and 0 survivors, the details are unknown. And here, probably, this is Yuzuki. We see at the end of his Dark Memory story that he does become a Red Eyes. There was a comment on one of my videos, had a theory that the final Red Eyes would be Yuzuki. I think there's a good case to be made for that. The year 2030. The Daegyeon leaders, the Red Eyes, are annihilated. The leader of the 13th Cross Unit of the Crusaders kills the final Red Eye in Jerusalem. Without a leader, the Legion's movements lose focus and direction. The Crusader leader dies to a wound sustained in the battle with the Red Eye. So here I propose that the leader of the 13th Cross Unit became Hina, and that the final Red Eye in Jerusalem is Yuzuki. So we have kind of a final showdown between Hina and Yuzuki, where they kill themselves in the base or prime timeline. And this is very poetic because, one of the biggest themes of the Sun and the Moon arc in Nier Reincarnation is of conflict. We look at all of the stories, Udil and Sarafa, Yuri and Marie, Priyet and Sadhu. It all has to do with conflict, the relationship between two people. And then Hina and Yuzuki also is about that, so I think we can safely assume that these two people facing off at the end are brother and sister. Very cool to see these reincarnation characters kind of tied into that piece of lore that I think was there for quite a while. The year 2031, White Chlorination Syndrome cases continue to increase. Lacking Red Eye leadership, the threat from Daegyeon lessens, but White Chlorination Syndrome continues to infect humans around the world. 2032, February. The replicant system process is open to the general public. The process to have a replicant made and to enter the Gestalt form is open to the general public. Up until now, select few, were made into Gestalts and put under protections. 2032, March. The World Purification Plan is established. The Gestalt Project enters its final phases. Waves of applicants eagerly go through the replicant system to become Gestalt forms and receive replicant forms. In the subconscious of the replicants are placed the notions to subjugate Region and preserve the ongoing replicant system. The Gestalt Project enters the final phases. The war with Region is entrusted to the replicants. Humans avoid the white chlorination syndrome by entering a form of hibernation in Gestalt forms. Androids are placed around the world to act as semi-immortal guardians of the replicant system. The guardians order the replicants to collect the Maso particles. The collected Maso is sent to another world by the guardians in a rite called the Matsuri. So here we are getting back to Nier Replicant, and we get kind of the origin of Devola and Popola, and there are multiples of them kind of placed around the world, as we know from other games as well. Also cool that this is how, the world is cleaned up by getting the Maso out of there. The year 2033, the Grimoire Noir project begins. Based on techniques from another world, a book-like instrument is created that can seal Gestalts. The first two are named the Grimoire Noir and the Grimoire Weiss, and 13 such books are created in all. Noir and Weiss can combine their energies to return the souls in Gestalt form to the matching replicant bodies. This return is planned after Region and the white chlorination syndrome disappear from the Earth. The Japanese government proclaims the Region are near their end. The year 2049. Papa Nier and Yonah become Gestalts. It is discovered if a Gestalt exists too long in that form, it can lose its mind and enter a broken state. Furthermore, if a Gestalt goes on even longer, it can die. However, studies revealed if the Maso is extracted from a Gestalt, it will be more stable and last longer. The year 2053. Brother Nier and Yonah become Gestalts. During the World Purification Plan, the search for a stable Gestalt is carried out with Grimoire Noir making clones of the poor. The operation is handled by the Hamlin organization. Young Nier hears of this operation and hopes he can cure his sick sister Yonah and volunteers. However, on learning about the inherent danger and high failure rate, Nier and Yonah flee the Hamlin facility. Nier and Yonah are attacked in an abandoned supermarket in Shinjuku by broken Gestalts, and Nier, out of desperation, chooses to become a Gestalt. Nier retains his consciousness and will, despite becoming a Gestalt. In the attack, Yonah also becomes a Gestalt and soon becomes a broken form. Nier returns to the Hamlin facility and asks to freeze Yonah for 1,000 years so that future technology can cure her. The Hamlin organization agrees to do this in exchange for extracting the Maso from Nier, believing his particles will enable other Gestalts to retain their consciousness and will. Nier is designated the original Gestalt. So this is crazy. This is the introduction of Nier and Yonah, and then kind of both versions of them, from Nier Gestalt, that earlier game, and then the later game, which came out recently, which has the younger Nier, where he is the brother. This is very cool, I think, how they worked the two games together. They're all in the same timeline. We could interpret it so that, Papa Nier is the original one, and then the brother Nier is a clone that was created by the Grimoire Noir. And that's kind of been my impression of, looking at this timeline overall. If you look at all of the Nier lore kind of taken together, it kind of seems like a mess, but reading through this timeline, it's all kind of making sense. It's all fitting together. Pretty impressive. Also, I loved this context around, what was kind of happening with that intro to Nier Replicant. And I don't know if I missed it in-game, but I was kind of, shocked to learn that part about, freezing Yonah for 1,000 years. I guess I never made the connection between, that prologue and then the main game. I just chalked it up to something sort of esoteric and unexplained. But here it is explained, so yeah, very cool to get that insight. Okay, back to the timeline, and from here, the rest of the video, it'll be all Nier Reincarnation, so very exciting. 2073, July. The fourth war between a kingdom and the neighboring country begins. The attempted assassination of a kingdom's prince at a cross-country exchange sparks the beginning of a war. This is now Leon and Demas's story. This was explained in Leon's Dark Memory story, how the war began. The princess came from the neighboring country, princess or some kind of noble girl, and then there were talks about like a marriage arranged between the two, but through a subterfuge on the part of the kingdom, that princess was killed and was blamed as like an assassin, and they used that as a like a false front in order to declare war. And then Leon, he felt guilty for kind of beginning the war, for playing a part in there. Not his fault, of course, but then that's the kind of guy Leon is. But not specified in the chronology is if this continent is the Western continent that the USA was. So I actually cannot speak to that. If we look at, the storybook sections of Leon and Demas walking, we see some parts that look a lot like, Arizona, Utah. I don't know that there's any other landscape on Earth that looks like that, but I don't know if that's proof enough to say that Leon and Demas is taking place in the USA. Okay, continuing the timeline. 2073, October. In the Fourth War, the kingdom's front lines are pushed back. The kingdom's front lines are taken in the Fourth War. Despite the destruction at the front lines, the kingdom's prince returns, unharmed. This was from Demas's Dark Memory story? It was somewhere in there. But before Demas, quote-unquote, awakens, he is on the front lines. I'm a little sad that the chronology here does not say that it is largely thanks to Demas that the prince returns. 2074, February. The prince of the kingdom is stripped of his inheritance, and he disappears. The prince, heir to the kingdom, is stripped of his inheritance by his father, the king. The prince flees the kingdom with a discarded clockwork soldier. Months later, rumors spread in various locations that a boy and a soldier travel together and call for the end of the war. This is played out in the main story for Leon. 2074, November. In a forest south of the kingdom, a mysterious signal broadcasts out. A mysterious signal is picked up originating from a forest south of the kingdom. Over the next few hours, electronic devices nearby malfunction. The sound of the signal is said to resemble a wail or howl. This must be coming from Demas when he witnesses the prince's death when they run away to that forest south of the capital. Alright, here we'll jump ahead a few years, about 30 years, and then we'll get to the next pair of characters. 21-2, September. Version 1.0 of the ruling AI starts. September 1st. A nation that came to power on its advances in science entrusts the ruling of its country to an AI. So I don't know if anybody would have predicted this, but the Leon Demas events being 30 years apart from the Marie-Yuri events, the nation of science with the ruling AIs, it looks very, very, advanced. But yeah, closer to the present day than maybe we were expecting. 21-4, February. Version 1.0 of the ruling AI is slated for disposal. Version 2.0 starts. During wartime, the AI that rules the nation of science makes an error in judgment and is slated for disposal. The nation's council concludes her conscience was to blame for her mistake. Version 2.0 of the ruling AI is hurriedly started up without sufficient testing. Version 2.0's conscience is removed. So here we get the kind of the exchange of Marie for Yuri. This was played out in Yuri's main story. And I always had a soft spot for Yuri. Like, she came into the world in a very painful way. That was part of not being tested enough. I have made a video looking at the kind of the tragedy of Marie and Yuri. I'll put a link to that below. 21-7, December. An unknown singer broadcasts an unsanctioned live event. A singer popular on the internet hijacks all monitors and speakers in the nation of science. She performs a live event this one night. Also in that same month, version 2.0 of the ruling AI disappears. Soon after the unsanctioned live event, the ruling AI version 2.0 abandons her duties. The nation of science is afterwards attacked and defeated by the adjacent nation. 21-9, January. the nation that rose on science is destroyed. After the nation of science falls, a resistance force attempts to regain the country but is betrayed by a mole. The nation of science disappears. So not explained here is where Yuri and Marie face off in the online space. This is when Yuri was seeking perfection of herself by taking the conscience of Marie, and then not being able to handle that addition of the conscious, and then Marie wandering the wasted, blasted out landscape of her previous city without any memory of her own. But yeah, very in the vein of a Greek tragedy, as I lay out in my previous video. And then we have one piece of new information here. 2117, December. This is exactly 10 years after the Unknown Singer broadcast. A girl's song is broadcast around the world simultaneously. December 24th. All monitors and speakers around the world are hijacked, and for 4 minutes a girl's song, pleading for peace, is broadcast. Many who listen are moved, and the incident is referred to as the 4 Minutes of Hope. What is this? Clearly this is Marie, having her broadcast being done again. But how did it go around the world? Why is it 10 years later? Maybe one conclusion we can draw from this is that Marie is still alive and kicking. Perhaps she has regained some sense of herself. I don't know. Alright, we'll jump ahead again here. 2163, April. The Fourth War intensifies. The kingdom invades the surrounding countries and increases its reach. The Fourth War, that has lasted nearly 100 years, intensifies further. A woman who underwent human experimentation and who has prostheses is nicknamed the Color. She kills many soldiers and escapes the kingdom. Now we are in Gail's story, but we have a better sense of what time that she came around in comparison to Leon and Demas. We see at the end of Demas's or Gail's main story that they do face off against each other, so there is some overlap. But we're seeing that at the end of Leon and Demas's main story, almost 100 years of separation there. So yeah, the length of the Fourth War. So all that time, Demas has been, wandering around or guarding the church where he and Leon were last at. That could explain why the prostheses of Gail look so much more technologically advanced than the makeup of Demas. 2170, June. The woman with the prostheses attacks the kingdom's research facility. The Color attacks the kingdom's research facility and renders it unable to function. The kingdom begins to search for the woman with the prostheses. 2172, November. The kingdom is overthrown. The loss of its research facility is a heavy blow for the kingdom and is directly linked to the subsequent fall of the kingdom. But loyal followers of the fallen kingdom continue to hunt the woman with the prostheses. 2177, August. From a forest south of the fallen kingdom, a signal from a clockwork soldier is broadcast. A signal originating from a forest south of the fallen kingdom is picked up. On investigation, the remains of the past prince are discovered. So we see that Gail achieves her main goal, which was to get revenge on the kingdom for everything that it had taken from her. And then we get a cap, in a sense, to the Leon Demas story. Demas sends out a signal that he is ending function, that he is breaking down. And that attracts people to that abandoned church, and then they find the body of Leon there. And I'm sorry, but I found this scene a little bit humorous. To have like the little skeleton of Leon kind of propped up against the shrine in there, but also kind of very like Demas to do that. He doesn't know any better. I guess he didn't know about like burial rites, and it would make sense that Demas would kind of like stand guard over the body of the prince all this time. And that is it for this page of the chronology. At the beginning of the next page, I did look ahead. There will be some kind of final notes on Gail and Leon and Demas. But yeah, lots of stuff here. We got Hina and Yuzuki, Devola and Popola, Nier and Yona, Leon, Demas, Gail, Marie, Yuri. Very, very full page. Alright, I actually have the next page translated. I just need to do the voice recording and then do the editing, and then I'll be able to put up that video next. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.